I had started my research trying to figure out if there were some elements that we could intentionally develop in the next generation of leaders so that they became more responsible with the planetary consequences of their actions. Now, at that point, I had identified the elements which related to the knowing, the thinking, how they thought, and the being dimension. Now, with these elements, which I call the sustainability mindset, I started to think how convert this into learning objectives for a course to develop that mindset. I used the same process that I found in the people I interviewed in their change process. So it started with some level of awareness based on information they had access to, but it was not only the information, they also made meaning out of that information as they were asking themselves, how am I contributing? What does this mean for me? And in that way, they engaged in a self-exploration of their values, of their paradigms, of their purpose. And that created a cognitive dissonance where they were saying, oh my God, I am doing this, but I'm not a bad person. It's not intentionally that I am doing this. So with this cognitive dissonance, they were fueled into action. That is where their strong motivation came, and they felt urged to act and to do something. So what you see here is how these different elements of the sustainability mindset were grouped into 4 categories, in 4 clusters. One is the dimension of ecoliteracy. I mean, that brings together the broad picture of the world and also what are the current impacts of our life and actions, so that the students can connect the dots. In the pocket of systems intelligence, it is how do we develop this long-term view, the both and logic, the interconnectedness when students analyze information and the understanding of a cyclical flow. In the part of emotional intelligence, it's the aspects particularly to connecting our behaviors, self-awareness, how am I contributing and what are my values, how do I manifest them in my daily actions. And in the area in the dimension of spiritual intelligence, well, these questions are like, who am I? What is my purpose? What is my mission? What is the difference I want to make? And all this anchored on collaborative, innovative action. The syllabus originally was for 15 weeks. After that, I have done it in other versions, 8 weeks, shorter versions. It was 3 face-to-face sessions of 7 hours and 3 or 4 virtual sessions of 2 hours each. However, as I said, we have done different versions afterwards, and colleagues in this network also have been recreating the syllabus. And here is an example of how these different aspects of the thinking, for example, when we want to create a systemic framework so that students interpret data and develop solutions, what does it look like? Well, for example, in terms of both and logic, that they can understand paradox and complexities and use a both and logic to develop solutions. Or for example, when we talk about interconnections, how can they see the interconnections as they develop multi-stakeholder perspectives when they are analyzing a problem? Or for example, when we talk about feedback loops and cyclical flow, or it's not a loop, it's a loop, how can they look beyond the linear cause-effect relationships and so that they anticipate these different cause-effect relationships in the solutions that they develop. Also that they can think of scenarios that contemplate the long term, not only the short term of the impact in their solutions. And the level of the thinking also has the creative potential. How do we awaken the creative potential and the inner wisdom so that they can develop innovative solutions? It is interesting that many times students say, oh, especially in business school, oh, I'm not a creative person. However, I always say you are creative when you're planning a party, when you're fixing a salad. So how can we help them connect with this creativity that we all have? And because we need to start to think out of the box to shape new products, new way of approaching the problems. We have to reinvent almost everything. So how can we develop this confidence so that they develop more mental flexibility and respond in a better way to the unexpected? Also, how can they access the right brain hemisphere? That means that to enrich their understanding through a holistic and intuitive view of reality. So important to develop the intuition. In terms of the being, how can the students see themselves as part of a larger ecosystem where they recognize the laws of nature that govern all that is? We are not separate from nature, we are part of it. And then how do they use that perspective to analyze problems and develop solutions from within that framework? Very different, instead of seeing nature as a resource. Also, what are some introspective habits that we can help them develop so that they understand themselves better, that they review what are their personal values and the motivations, and the values, those that are espoused, but also the values in action, and that is where this cognitive dissonance comes, and the anchors of their own identity. It is important that they learn to slow down, particularly in our fast-paced world, that they incorporate practice to quiet the mind. These are the things that the students have been welcoming the most. They suffer of being in this high-speed world rhythm, and so when we start to practice a minute of silence, a minute of guided visualization, they really find that that is a very important learning for their life. Other aspects of the being that we develop is habits of reflection, so that they can pause and ponder the situation without having to jump into quick answers based on their assumptions. Also, we invite them to consider the larger purpose of their decisions. What is the meaning of their decisions? What is the mission that they see for themselves? What is the difference they want to make? So that they can weigh options with those criteria in mind. What brings meaning to my life? Also, by working on projects, on team projects, we want them to develop comfort in collaborating with others, and that is a wide set of skills. So here are some examples in the area of developing awareness, system thinking. What are activities that we use? Well, we use facts and images, like we use the slides of the images in this webinar. We use videos and readings. Facebook on the sustainability mindset is another way to connect them with the system thinking. In terms of the being orientation and the oneness with nature, for example, we have dialogues. There are questions to reflect on, a walk in nature without having any phone, just walk and then debrief that experience. Very powerful. In exploring paradigms, for example, related to innovative thinking, we use visioning exercises, artistic expression so that they can connect with their creativity, brainstorming techniques, writing or reading poetry, creating metaphors, also the Happy Planet Index to see what does it mean to be instead of measuring the GDP as a way of measuring our well-being, measuring happiness. Also identifying their personal carbon footprints. All these things help them connect with old and new paradigms. In the being orientation, we have the understanding of larger purpose, introspective self-awareness, and so there are Zen-inspired assignments. I talk about the little Zen master, which is a wise guy that gives them special assignments. We have meditations. They can do interviews with a person that is very much outside their regular interaction. It could be a homeless, a policeman, a person from another religion. And storytelling, story writing, also for self-awareness, and the MBTI or other personality assessment tests or instruments are useful. One of the things that I think is very important in developing the sustainability mindset is identifying what are the anchors that keep us in the unsustainability. These are values that are very important in our culture, like growth, wealth, competition, comfort, being control, knowledge, achievement, speed, independence. These are anchors, these are values very much cherished in our culture. At the same time, they are at the roots of our unsustainability. And the enablers of them, which are the media, science and technology, and globalization. When you do the fast track, we will go in depth into these anchors and how we can work through those anchors with our students. Very important, because as long as we are not aware of those anchors of our identity, it's very difficult to detach ourselves or to find what are the alternatives. How can I still have comfort without consuming things that I don't need and creating more waste, for example. So finally, getting into action, I mentioned briefly in the beginning that we have passion projects. Passion project, which is helping them identify a project where they can make a difference in an area where they have skills or where they feel very concerned about. And this should be a collaborative work where they can make an impact during the term of the course. That is very important because that gives them a sense of confidence in their own capabilities, a sense of achievement. When they look at a passion project that is very large and could take them a few years to achieve, like, well, I want to start an NGO, that may not be achieved, and that gives a sense of, well, overwhelm, and, well, the problems are too big for me to do anything. So if you insist that they find a small project, it can get some closure during the term of our course. So here are some activities. The inventory of skills, so that they use their skills, their resources. Also understand what are the areas of control and influence. We can provide some decision-making processes so that they find what is the best project, or what some planning tools. Resources like peer group coaching, so that they support each other along the course. Very important to learn how to work in small groups. In some cases, we invite them to do also a personal habit change. They can work with learning partners, and we use inspiring videos and readings to encourage them to work on that project. So the project becomes also an anchor where they continually learn from as the weeks go by. In this slide, you can see some examples of these students' passion projects that they started and finished during the course. One was a kayak event, a family event where the families were invited to clean up the Hudson River, a No Impact Week campaign at the university to bring awareness to the whole campus, a creation of a children's book that the student drew by herself to learn about the environment. She was inspired by her little nieces. Another one created a professional oath for the university related to sustainability. That was a very high impact project. Another one started an awareness campaign about water in campus. That was a group in Florida. Some created an awareness campaign at the students' work site, so they brought it back to the work site and started to have meetings with different colleagues and what is it that we can do to lower our footprint. Another one created a portal to sell furniture with low-income carpenters. These are just a few examples of student projects, but they really help to catalyze the anxiety and create a feeling of self-confidence, a can-do attitude. So, what is the sustainability mindset and why should we develop it? The most important agenda of all times are the SDGs, and you may already be very familiar with them. These are the global goals. There are 17, and this is really a very thorough agenda with lots of details, where we are today, what are the goals that for a world that works for all. And if there is any activity, whether we are educators, business people, students, we all have a role to play in achieving those goals. There is something that we all can do. How does this connect with what we are doing in this sustainability mindset course? Well, in a way, we are helping the students explore through self-awareness, through what are their values, what are their goals in life, what is the larger purpose. Through this exploring this little me circle, they get a fuller awareness of what it is that they want to do. Also, they start to expand the levels of caring so that it can go from me to my tribe, my region, the world, and all that is. As we expand those borders, those boundaries of caring, we really can bring people, the students, to be more inspired and more passionate about making a difference through the 17 SDGs. The mission of our UN Prime Working Group on the Sustainability Mindset is to achieve the SDGs by developing a sustainability mindset. And that is how it all comes together. So if you want to learn more about how to design these elements into your courses, how to adapt them, which ones are best to adopt so that you can introduce different activities and exercises in the courses that you're teaching, you can sign up for the Sustainability Mindset Fast Track, which is a course in 7 modules. And if you want to learn more, go deeper into the sustainability mindset, the research and the elements and the contents, you can check out The Big Bang Being, Developing the Sustainability Mindset, also Educating for Responsible Management, Putting Theory into Practice, and about the learning methodology that is very specific to developing such a mindset because it needs a different learning approach. We have Stop Teaching Principles and Practices for Responsible Management Education. And in addition to several chapters and papers that are published and also publications from other colleagues in this network, you can find some of them in the Dropbox. Other ways to stay connected is participating in the Lib Cafe, which happens every first Monday of the month in 2 different time zones. Also our storytelling sessions, the third Monday of the month, and also in our Twitter that is called the Leap Mindset. So this concludes part 3. Part 4 is a collection of images and facts that I have used to bring awareness. They are engaging the head, but also the heart, the emotions, which you know are essential for transformative learning and for action.